Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay Lewis, editor of Building Enclosure. Thanks for listening along with us today. On October 16th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we have a live webinar airing Designing Roofs to Withstand Nature's Worst. Key considerations to help your roof withstand the next big one. Our presenters, Andrea Wagner-Watts, the Building Science Education Manager for GAF C-Class Building and Roofing Science team, and Erin Andes, the Director of Design Outreach for GAF C-Class, are here today to chat about the upcoming presentation. Andy and Erin, thanks for sitting with me.
Thank you.
So to kick off, I believe you will be chatting about ASCE 7 and the recent updates to the new wind requirements in that. Now, my question is, how has this changed the way designers calculate wind loads on roofing systems?
Sure, yeah. So one of the biggest changes is the introduction of tornado load cases. And the big thing to note here is we're not designing for giant tornadoes like in the movie Twister. We're only focused on designing for the smaller scale ones. So it doesn't necessarily govern in the calculation, but it is something that folks will need to consider. The new version also updates the wind speed maps, particularly in hurricane-prone regions, and removes the wind directionality factor for velocity pressure.
Now, can you explain the role of edge metal code requirements in maintaining overall wind resistance of commercial roofing systems?
Sure, yeah. So the perimeter of the roof is the part that's most likely to fail first in a wind event. And so code recognized this and added a requirement for ANSI SPRI ES1 testing back in 2003. However, many designers are still unfamiliar with this requirement and what it actually means. So it's actually a requirement that the edge metal be tested using one of three test methods, and we'll be diving into those deeper in the webinar.
Now, what are some of the most effective strategies for designing roofs to withstand very severe hail events, and how do those differ from traditional hail-resistant designs?
It's a great question. And when we're designing for hail, and we're designing for a lot of these different weather events that we're going to be talking about, the biggest piece is that we need to look at the whole roof assembly and not just the individual components. It's how we put the components together. It's how they're attached to each other. It's the membrane, it's cover boards. And there are different solutions, especially in the cover board and attachment part of the design, that we see that we can get to the very severe hail with some, and we can't with others. So we'll spend a good amount of time on this during the webinar and get into a lot of the specifics.
Now, if we're looking at the selection of materials such as membrane type or insulation, how do those impact a roof's performance under large hail impact?
Yeah, so most people, when they're talking about roof selection, they're talking about the membrane type. And you can get a very severe hail rating with pretty much any type of membrane. It's really going to go into the full assembly selection, like Andy said. In the webinar, we're going to be giving great examples of how these things fail during the testing that they go through, and really diving into why you might want to specify a certain type of cover board or a certain thickness of membrane, or even a particular fastening attachment.
So what best practices exist for managing water during large rain events, particularly in low slope commercial roofs?
So when we talk about managing water on a roof, it becomes a question of either water retention or detention. Do we want to store the water for another purpose, either on the roof itself or in a separate storage area? Or do we just want to slow the release of water so that it doesn't overwhelm our local sewer system? So depending on your local jurisdiction, the building owner's requirements, both can be really great options.
So looking at tapered insulation systems, how can those be optimized to both manage water flow and enhance thermal performance?
Yeah, so a lot of times tapered insulation is added to a roof assembly to direct water to the drain, either as crickets or as a full taper layout in a kind of an inverted pyramid configuration. And so when we're designing to enhance thermal performance, or even for some of these other storm situations like hail, adhering the layer of tapered insulation is beneficial. It reduces thermal bridging, it increases hail resistance, and also the contractor is able to use one size of fastener because they're only attaching the flat pieces, and they're not having to vary their fastener sizes depending on how thick the taper package is.
What are some advantages and maybe disadvantages of using water retention and detention systems as part of a roof design and strategy?
It's a great question. So let's start with advantages. There are certain jurisdictions where this is actually a requirement to meet the local building code, especially in older cities along the East Coast, such as New York City or Washington, D.C. You have to somehow manage your stormwater on the building site. And if we have zero lot line construction, this becomes one of the tools for a civil engineer to use in order to address these code requirements. Now, on the limitation side, there are some jurisdictions where we can't retain the water. For example, in California, a lot of there are requirements against retaining or detaining the water. And we also have to look at the weight capacity of these buildings when it comes to how much water can we hold and for how long, and making sure that the structure itself can hold that weight.
So in any of your experiences, what are the most common oversights in roof design when addressing multiple hazards like wind, hail, and water simultaneously?
In terms of oversights, I would say the most common one is just people not having the time or knowledge and experience to really design properly for it. But in practice, VE is really the common enemy of a robust design. A roof system that was designed to address severe weather conditions will inherently cost more. And so, when things start getting too expensive, they'll take out some of those robust elements.
Now, lastly, I do want to ask, what else will you guys be going over during the presentation?
We've covered a lot of it here already today, but designing for storms and designing for the next big one is all about resilient design, and it's how we put assemblies together. We have to go past talking about materials and really look at assemblies, and so we're going to talk a lot about that. And to Erin's point just now on VEing assemblies, the goal is that attendees will be able to leave this presentation with the support to go beyond these code plus design decisions to help ensure that the roof assemblies will protect the building as expected, and they're able to support those potentially higher cost assemblies in order to do so.
Well, thank you both again for your time today.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thanks, Lindsay.
To register for this free webinar, head to continueducation.bnpmedia.com. Until next time, visit us on buildingclosureonline.com for your technical and educational resources.